According to child development experts, most parenting mistakes don't come from neglect or lack of love. They come from misinformation, exhaustion, and pressure during the first 3 years, when a child's brain is forming faster than it ever will again. Many parents only realize this years later, when behaviors, emotional patterns, and struggles start showing up and they think something went wrong recently, when in reality the foundation was quietly laid between birth and age 3. Pediatric psychologists explain that the biggest regrets parents carry are not about toys they didn't buy or activities they missed, but about the moments they didn't understand, the reactions they wish they could take back, and the signals they didn't know how to read. This is why specialists emphasize that early parenting isn't about perfection, it's about awareness, because small repeated responses during these years shape how a child feels about safety, emotions, and themselves long before they can explain it in words. One of the most common regrets parents admit later is responding to crying as a problem instead of communication. Developmental experts say that from birth to age 3, crying is not manipulation, drama, or bad behavior. It is the nervous system asking for regulation. Many parents regret letting a baby cry longer than they were comfortable with because they were told it would build independence, only to later learn that consistent comfort actually builds emotional security. Neuroscience shows that when a caregiver responds calmly and predictably to distress, the child's stress system learns how to turn itself off over time. Parents who ignored their instincts and tried to toughen up their babies often say they wish they had trusted connection more than advice that didn't feel right. Another major regret comes from expecting emotional maturity too early. Child psychologists explain that toddlers are not supposed to self-regulate, share easily, or calm themselves down without help. Yet many parents look back and realize they punished normal developmental behavior like tantrums, impulsivity, or emotional outbursts because they didn't know those behaviors were signs of an immature brain, not a disobedient child. Experts note that the brain areas responsible for impulse control and emotional regulation are still under construction well into childhood. Parents often regret saying things like "stop crying," "you're fine," or "big kids don't act like this," not realizing those messages can teach a child to suppress emotions instead of understanding them. Many caregivers also regret focusing too much on behavior and not enough on connection. Early childhood specialists explain that discipline in the first 3 years is not about correction, it's about co-regulation. When parents are overwhelmed, tired, or stressed, they may default to commands, threats, or distractions just to get through the day. Later, they realize that what their child needed most in those moments was presence, not control. Research consistently shows that children learn self-control from being regulated by calm adults, not from being forced into compliance before they are ready. Parents often wish they had slowed down, gotten on their child's level, and connected first instead of reacting quickly. Another regret parents frequently mention is overstimulation without realizing it. Experts explain that babies and toddlers do not need constant entertainment, screens, or structured activities to develop well. In fact, too much stimulation can overwhelm a developing nervous system. Many parents regret introducing screens early as a coping tool, not knowing that excessive screen exposure can interfere with attention development, sleep patterns, and emotional regulation. Child development researchers emphasize that simple experiences like free play, human interaction, and boredom are critical for brain growth. Parents often say they wish they had worried less about milestones and more about calm, predictable routines. Sleep-related regrets are also very common. Sleep consultants and pediatric specialists explain that sleep struggles in the early years are often misunderstood. Parents may regret forcing schedules that didn't match their child's temperament, or feeling guilt and frustration instead of curiosity when sleep didn't come easily. Many parents later realize they blamed themselves or their child unnecessarily, not knowing that sleep development varies widely and is deeply connected to emotional security. Experts note that a child who feels safe and soothed is more likely to develop healthy sleep patterns over time, and many parents wish they had responded with more patience instead of pressure. Another powerful regret centers around language and tone. Early childhood therapists explain that children absorb tone long before they understand words. Yelling, sarcasm, or harsh responses during moments of stress can leave emotional impressions even if the child cannot remember the event consciously. Parents often regret losing their temper during the toddler years and assume their child won't remember it. But neuroscience shows that emotional memory is stored in the body and nervous system. Experts stress that it's not about never getting angry, but about repair. Parents who learn this later often wish they had known sooner that apologizing and reconnecting after a mistake actually strengthens trust instead of weakening authority. Many parents also regret comparing their child to others during the early years. Developmental specialists explain that comparison creates unnecessary pressure and anxiety for both parent and child. Every child develops at a different pace, especially between birth and age 3. Parents often look back and realize they worried too much about milestones instead of enjoying who their child was in that moment. Experts emphasize that early childhood is not a race, and comparison can quietly damage a child's sense of worth when they feel they are not enough as they are. A deeply emotional regret many parents share is not taking care of themselves during these years. Mental health professionals explain that parental burnout affects responsiveness, patience, and emotional availability. Parents often push themselves beyond their limits, believing sacrifice equals good parenting. Later, they realize that exhaustion made them less present, more reactive, and less joyful. Experts stress that children don't need perfect parents, they need regulated ones. Caring for yourself is not selfish, it directly benefits your child's emotional development. Another overlooked regret involves not talking to children as whole humans. Language experts explain that narrating emotions, explaining actions, and speaking respectfully to babies and toddlers supports brain development and emotional intelligence. Many parents regret using baby talk excessively or not explaining boundaries, assuming their child wouldn't understand. Research shows that even infants benefit from hearing language that labels feelings and describes the world. Parents often wish they had talked more, listened more, and slowed down enough to engage in real interaction. Perhaps the most painful regret parents express is believing they had more time. Child development professionals emphasize that the first 3 years pass quickly, and many foundational experiences happen quietly. Parents often think they'll be more patient tomorrow, more present next month, or more intentional later, only to realize how fast those years disappear. Experts remind parents that influence doesn't come from grand gestures, it comes from daily moments of responsiveness, warmth, and safety. The most important message specialists share is that regret does not mean failure. Neuroscience confirms that the brain remains plastic and capable of healing and growth far beyond early childhood. What matters most is awareness and repair. Parents who learn from their regrets often become more intentional, emotionally attuned caregivers moving forward. Experts stress that acknowledging mistakes, changing patterns, and reconnecting with your child can strengthen your relationship at any age. According to psychologists, if parents could go back to ages 0 to 3 with the knowledge they have now, they wouldn't aim to be perfect, they would aim to be calmer, more curious, and more connected. They would respond to behavior with understanding instead of fear, prioritize emotional safety over control, and trust that love and consistency matter more than doing everything right. And for parents still in these early years, experts say the most powerful shift is not changing everything at once, but changing how you see your child. When you see behavior as communication and development instead of defiance, everything changes. If there is one takeaway professionals want parents to remember, it's this: your child does not need flawless parenting. They need a relationship where they feel safe, seen, and soothed. Every moment of connection counts more than every mistake. And even if you carry regrets from the early years, What you do next matters far more than what you wish you had done before.